I just want to thank the wonderful staff and crew here at the TV studio at MacEwan. Such passionate people. Gerard is a great help to making this possible. We just finished my student research presentation for Student Research Day here at MacEwan, and this is our after party. This is we're gonna talk a little bit more about the project and what we've been working on, and I don't know, we might just talk life in general. But so far, like I'm gonna start back at the beginning. We already talked about this in our Zoom call right off the top. How did you get started? Like where did you get into this? How did you become a part of this project?
It's one of those things that just kind of, it was like a right place at the right time kind of thing. I think it went through originally about 2 or 3 different composers. And obviously it's quite a large undertaking to write 40 minutes of music in admittedly a decently short period of time. And at the time, most of my professional circle was still full-time university students as well as myself. And I was kind of the first person to be like, you know what, school can wait. I'll crank this out. And so, yeah.
But how did you meet these people? How did they find you?
It came off of just recommendation from my good friend Dana Clemenson. She was one of the composers beforehand, and she passed the project off to me and introduced me to the team behind all of this.
Interesting. So Dana was originally signed on to do the score.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where did it go from there?
There was a couple of initial meetings, mostly with Baird, about just kind of the concept that everyone was thinking for the ballet and stuff. Yeah, the biggest thing that jumped out was like traditional ballet mixed with Daft Punk's Tron soundtrack. As soon as I heard that, I kind of knew. I was like, I'm pretty on board for this, you know.
Well, that goes into, like, I'm going to jump way ahead to where we are now.
Yeah.
Into the visual side of things. Working with our lighting director, he started to use that L-wire cabling lighting. So it's like the strip lighting, and we're talking about how we can incorporate this L-wire into the costumes, which is totally a Tron thing. Anytime you see somebody at a music festival with all this L-wire, like, bodysuit type stuff, you're just like, man, look at that, that's Tron.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited for people to actually be able to see this. But let's move on. Let's go back, and we're talking about like the step-by-step process to where we've gotten today in Coppeli-AI. So maybe if you want to talk about some of those motifs again, and like, I mean, we're repeating ourselves now from the presentation we just did, but that's fine. This is new.
Yeah, so I guess step by step, immediately, as soon as I knew kind of how this project was getting shaped up to be, I very quickly found my direction, and that lies in the fact that there was no choreography set yet. I had basically only received, when I signed on, I basically just received a set of like stage directions, and they were like, all right, here's how long it needs to go for. Go ahead. and admittedly, like the Coppeli-A.I is an adaptation of a ballet named Coppelia, right? So that did give me a very nice bed of source music to go off of. But admittedly, the only thing that was told to me to keep the same was basically like, yeah, keep the same tempo, keep the same dance form. Other than that, go kind of crazy. So I just wanted to essentially take maybe a 30-second listen to each piece of source music as I was going through, and just really use only that. I think when you get into the space of like adaptations and sort of reimagination of things, it's very easy to get trapped in this kind of feedback loop of listening to the source music and then making stuff that sounds too much like the source music, and then making stuff like, just, you know, everyone in the like composer world kind of like thinks about what's it called? It's just like temp music syndrome or something, where people get really attached to temp music. Didn't want that to happen to me, basically. So yeah, I tried to keep things very fresh and just.
And you mean like just sticking too close to your reference?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. We're gonna play a short video of what we're kind of talking about, which is Phil's prepared a quick video. It's a 7-minute video that we're gonna play of him describing more of what he's talked about.
My name's Rodda. I wrote the music for Coppeli-A.I. We're just here at my home studio, and I wanted to take you through a couple of the strategies and themes and things that I really wanted to work on for this ballet, just on the same computer and same DAW that it was written on. So here we go. Okay, so for the people that don't know, a leitmotif is basically just a short little musical idea, phrase, or like set of notes that are supposed to represent a character. They're super important for storytelling and for capturing emotion that the characters are supposed to feel and relating that back to the audience. So I had to place a lot of great importance on those. For example, here is Dr. Copellius's, the first thing you hear in the ballet. So one of the first things you'll notice is that actually pops up quite a lot during the ballet, and that's because, well, the character is on stage quite a lot. Again, like mentioned earlier, I think leitmotifs are super, super important, especially in a stage ballet like this, just for helping people kind of understand what emotions they're supposed to be feeling. So for example, outside of that intro, we also have this section here. So the entire progression and section there is actually, the harmony is built off of that leitmotif. This is a very big moment in the ballet for Dr. Coppelius, and I just really wanted to kind of hammer home the point of like, this is their moment, right? There's an earlier section that I didn't really play, but this whole section is basically just a big crescendo to kind of help along with the stage movement and kind of hopefully support that a little bit. So the cool thing about doing that, when you throw it together with something like what we're doing for Coppeli-A.I.'s audio with the binaural mixing, is that you're able to let that audio sort of follow the character around, and again, support the movement to an extent that is like, would have been unthought of at least a decade ago, right? I think binaural mixing is going to be huge in the rest of that ballet for helping out with that. Not only with Dr. Coppelius's leitmotif, but with the other characters such as Franz and Swanhilda's as well. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the amount of contrast really that you're able to get when you sort of step into this world of binaural panning and room simulation and other things like that. You have the chance to get really, really massive with your mixes and really, really, really small and intimate. So I want to play 2 examples of that, starting with something that's extremely massive. So that's a section there that has quite a bit going on in it, right? The cool thing about this is on a set of stereo speakers, like, yes, it's a crowded mix. I will be the first to admit that. When you get into the world of binaural panning, everything has a lot more space to breathe and also, keyword here, move around in, right? The beauty of the way that Dylan wanted to approach this from the beginning is having as much movement in there kind of just as possible, really. So for a section here where there's upwards of, I think, about 20 tracks playing at once, 20 even like specific individual instruments, there's a lot of places for a lot of things to go, right? And that's why huge sections like this are really cool, because you can pan them around this virtual room, not only in the traditional sense of just speaker to speaker, but also distance wise. And that's going to be big for creating very breathable, very fluid and very dynamic mix that moves around a bunch as moves around as much as the dancers do, really, right? So in contrast to those larger sections, we also do have one of my personal favorite parts in this, and this is at the very end of the intro, kind of where just Coppelia is left to herself in the lab to kind of rest, and it's a very solemn and just slow section on stage, and it sounds like this. So the beauty of that section there, I think, lies in the piano library I chose. It's Spitfire's soft piano, which is a sample library that relies on having the microphones extremely close to the strings in a way that is pretty unorthodox if you think about it. Where that can add up really cool with the way that we have the show mixed, again, is with binaural audio, you have a very good opportunity here to take that sound and just put it right in people's faces. So it's very much like a larger than life kind of thing. It's almost like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids moment thing, where if you could do that to people, shrink them down, put them in front of the piano, and play it as softly as possible, I think it's probably the best representation of what it would sound like to them. Very much a larger-than-life thing that you don't hear much, that is really, really, really cool in my opinion. So in conclusion, those are two of my more heavily relied on techniques, at least in this ballet, for conveying emotion about characters and conveying emotion about movement specifically in a dance sense and with a live visual aspect to this ballet. I hope it gives a little bit more perspective on my process here, and I'm happy to answer any questions, obviously, for the next little bit here. But yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.
So we're back. That was Phillip Rodda kind of discussing with you a little bit about the project. I mean, that was a pretty in-depth view of like how you created this and how you, I mean, the ideas going through your head. And now that we've adapted this to immersive audio, what's changed for you? Like, do you think, like, you texted me yesterday and you're like, there's some things that I would have changed. But like, what did you have to change for us to do this?
To be completely honest, like, not a lot. I think you and the rest of the team behind this have done an excellent job of more so just working around me, and so thankfully my job's been pretty okay in that regard. I think more so it just comes down to, like, anytime a project sits for this long, you like,
because it's almost like a year and a half that this has been composed for.
Yeah. Anytime a project sits for this long, it's just, you just start kind of hating it. Not hating it, but you're geared differently as an artist, and a year and a half may not like sound like a lot, but you work on a lot of projects in that time, and you work on a lot of things that give you more perspective about not only the art that you create, but the art that you want to create in the future, as well as have created in the past. And a lot of the times, at least if you're working at yourself in a positive manner, like you should be always improving, right? So I think I've improved a lot to the point where I can like go back and listen to it and be like, just some decisions that I would maybe do differently at this time, but I'm also a person that can kind of like let go of things and understand that like there's a great quote I always think that like you're never done with a piece of art, you just stop working on it, and like you just have to accept some things that are like, yeah, no, this like I'm still proud of it. Definitely some things I think I'm a better musician now than I was a year and a half ago. So it's just one of those things where it's like I gotta live with it, I guess.
Totally. I
Yeah.
totally get what you're saying. When you work on a project for so long, there's a point where you need to stop messing with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're never gonna achieve the perfect thing. You know, you see those old stories of the Beatles like being at each other's throats in the recording studio, and like Bob Dylan bringing goats into the recording studio and like creating the masterpieces, and the movie Walk Hard, a Dewey Cox story, really does a great job of showing that side of creating, where Dewey in the film, if anybody's seen Walk Hard, goes insane trying to create his masterpiece.
Yeah.
And he just won't stop working on it. He loses his family, he loses his friends, his musicians, his everything, because he's just like he's like, no, this isn't perfect. We need to keep working on this, to the point like I said, he's bringing in goats into the studio, recording all these crazy sounds. But in the end, you need to know when it's done and when to walk away, and just to be happy with what you've put out there. So when we've adapted this to immersive audio, what do you think it has changed? And do you think that it's gotten better, or do you think that it's just different? And what do you feel that I've added to this project? I suppose.
I think it's gotten immensely better. The way that I looked at it after adapting like this, I think there was a lot of, we'll call them happy accidents on a compositional level, mostly in terms of the leitmotifs that were talked about beforehand. Again, before I even knew that this was kind of going to become the thing it was, I was very focused on melodic themes for characters. So they're everywhere. Every time a character is on stage, like you're hearing something about that theme, right? Whether it's just a straight up recreation of it, or if it's like some sort of adaptation in a different mode or a different or if it's like harmonized differently or just things like that, right? So the fact that those are so often present is really nice, because I think like replicating sort of movement in that spatial audio realm, it can be huge for it, as well as there's a lot of textural ideas that I had to throw around to kind of get it to fit a little bit more in the Tron vision space that I had. And even just from like our preliminary work a little bit ago, just like having things fly around is pretty fun to listen to, to say the least, right? So
great segue. We're gonna play another video for you. It's just a quick 1-minute clip of the immersive audio and some of the stuff that Phil had worked on in my home studio. And this was right at the start of COVID, so you know things were very uncertain at that point in time. Both of us, you know, he showed up with a mask on. We were both sitting in my living room with masks and mixing this audio session on headphones, because immersive audio is best enjoyed with binaural audio. And we just got so giggly, like we ordered pizza. It was a night, it was work, but it was a really fun project to work on, and I can't wait till we do it again, because we have to completely remix it now. We only did Act 2. Now we have to do Act 1 and Act 2, and we've advanced both so much in our capabilities just throughout this research project, throughout our university careers. I think that right now we're like really would be a great time to reevaluate it all and start it. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna watch a quick video. It has accompanying visuals from the preview performance. This is not going to be what the final performance looks like. The choreography has changed quite a bit. So there was a quick presentation of kind of like what we were working with. You saw the software that we use, which is called Spat Revolution. Very new software from the people at Flux and IRCAM out of France. And just I don't know, it's been it's a unique process when like there's a lot of learning curves associated with this research that like I had to readapt what we did so many times, and the signal flow of our Pro Tools session going into the Spat Revolution software, it's just like it's enough to make your head spin.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, now Spat has come out with new versions of the software that I need to readapt to and use some of their new features. So they have some really, really unique features with Spat Revolution. And I'm excited to start. That's why I said, like, now's the great time where we can really start messing with this and making it better than we could have before, because one, the software is older now, so they've updated it more. There's more features. We are more experienced. You're more experienced composer. I am, I think, a much more experienced engineer now, and you know, our other technical team with lighting and our costume designers and everything like that. Everything's starting to really come together for our premiere, which will be happening July 2nd through 4th at the Starlight Room. We haven't made an event for it yet. This is the first official public announcement that this is happening. I didn't even clear this with the artistic team. Maybe I should have cleared it with the artistic team that this is happening. This is all COVID pending. If we're allowed to do this, sometimes we're overambitious in booking these things, but we wanted to set a date and just try and stick to it. So if we have to present it virtually July 2nd to 4th, we will, but we really want to bring this to in person. Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, the Starlight Room, July 2nd through 4th, Coppeli-AI. That's our world premiere. We're going to be also doing a premiere at Fringe Festival, YEG, this year. Whatever that looks like, they want to do a combination virtual in-person experience if possible. So that'll be great. What else should we talk about?
Well, I was actually gonna say, it's funny you mentioned adapting earlier. Just because I specifically remember the first ever session we did for that. I kind of sat down after we got all the horrible nightmare that is routing. After we got that done, and we're like, oh my god, we can move things now. I sat down and we kind of like started playing with it, and just being in front of it and having as much experience as you and I do, just working in just like a stereo world, because that's how engineers these days are brought up. It's just two speakers, right? Having that much experience mixing in a stereo world and listening to music that's just kind of based in stereo, very much had to like flick a switch.
Forget about all that.
Yeah, and just think about it extremely differently. And I remember too, I kind of like did some stuff, and I was like, hey, what do you think of this? And you're like, no, we need more. And I was like, what do you mean? And then you just kept pushing, which was good. It's good. I needed that, but at the time I was confused. I was like, what else can we do? And then we quickly found out there's a lot of other things that we can do with this.
Totally, and one of the examples of that is in the software, that in the video that you just that everybody just watched, you could see, I think there was two angles. You saw the top-down angle and then the front angle, where you can see the elevation of all of the different individual, all the little round circles that you were seeing were the individual instruments. And so when we first started mixing it, I think Phil was listening, and he was like, all right, we need to put the violin here, and the bass here. And we were just like really focused on like what just sounded good instead of thinking, and this is where I came in. I was like, we need to make this an experience.
Yeah.
So everything that we did on a level plane. And then I was like, well, now you put it over here, but now let's put it up. So when we're talking about psychoacoustics and how our brain perceives audio, I'll let you speak to that a little bit more, because you know a little bit more about it than I do. As a child, when we're very young, our brains are just like inadvertently taught that noises that come from above us are important, that we need to pay attention to the noises that are above us, because that's where our parents are. They're taller than us. We're constantly looking up, so our ears are, when we hear something here, we think it's an authority thing, and that's where the most important thing is. So when we're mixing in binaural and ambisonic and all these other things, putting things like, let's just go away from a Coppelia and talk about like a band. Vocals in a mix, we would then bring the vocals. Normally vocals are dead center in the mix because we want them to be important, we want them to be heard. By putting them forward and center in a mix and then elevating them, you are then actually creating this individual space in the mix for the vocal, where it becomes apparent, and us as psychoacoustically see that as important, and we will perceive it to be louder or more important either way. So I don't know if you want to speak anything about psychoacoustics.
No, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I think just off of that point, though, relating it back again to stereo mixing, and you guys might see that'll happen quite a lot, because again, that's just the world that most people are used to when it comes to music and stuff. But it's just really like Dylan outlined there. That's just another tool that you can use. I like to call them weapons, but that's maybe just the way I think about music is weird. But yeah, it's just another weapon at your arsenal that you can really use to like hammer in a big section or things that are super, super important. And then two, like mentioned before in the Zoom broadcast that we were doing, having things coming from behind is extremely creepy. I'm sure everyone has had an experience where they're walking somewhere, it's pretty eerie, and there's a noise coming from behind you, and that also comes from a bit more of a primal background in human evolution, and that creates extremely unsettling unsettling feelings in people when combined with the right things. So, for example, the big breathing section, when Dr. Coppelius is really getting his plan into gear and his mental state is starting to deteriorate, like that's huge. Having the space and the binaural tools at our disposal to have something sound like it's coming from behind you and creeping up and creeping up and creeping up is insane. And again, it's a plane that I never would have even thought about being on until this project kind of started. So yeah, just lots of like transitioning to an ambisonic space has just given us so many more tools, I think, that are just absolutely incredible to work with and create a new at the risk of sounding cheesy, a whole new dimension to the music.
New world. Don't you dare close your eyes, chat. We are doing some crazy boundary expansion when it comes to immersive audio, and we're not, I mean, I don't want to claim to ever be the first one to do it, because it's been happening for a long time, but it's become significantly more popular now, so much to the point where I believe next year at Coachella, when Coachella is able to, the first time they introduce immersive audio at Coachella at the main stage. They've done immersive audio and multi-point speaker systems in their Mojave tent. I think it's Mojave. Sahara. The Sahara tent at Coachella. They have the multi-point speaker systems and immersive audio and things like that for the DJs, which makes a lot of sense. DJ sets, like you get things like Deadmau5 that create these amazing immersive mixes. Like I think Deadmau5 was one of the only people in only households in North America to have, what was it, a Dolby Atmos studio in his house. He was like one of two people in the world that has it in his house, of all places. So he does some pretty crazy things there. And then when it comes to like I said, at Coachella, I think they're going to be having the wave field synthesis mixing with the L-acoustic Lisa system. And this is diving down a really big tech rabbit hole that not many people that are watching are probably interested in. But the Lisa is a new speaker management system with L-acoustic. And David Ratt, who is the owner of Rat Sound, who does all the production for Coachella Music Festival, he's an acoustics dealer and an acoustics company. So I'm sure next year there's going to be an artist that mixed in wave field synthesis. You see something like Alt J. Alt J did his premiere of his immersive audio experience, or I don't want to say the band Alt J's immersive audio experience at the Royal Albert Hall in, I think it's the UK.
Yeah.
They did it in the round, and it was awesome. It wasn't quite the round, but it was the Albert Hall, Royal Albert Hall, which in fact the show Lucia, is it Lucia? I think Lucia is going to be continuing from Cirque du Soleil. They're going to be continuing their performance when they come back, when they're able to. They're going to be finishing. They had set shows at the Royal Albert Hall that were cut short because of COVID-19 restrictions. And so they're, from what I read on Cirque du Soleil's website, they're going to be coming back here right away.
Sweet.
Segue back to our project. You're going to be seeing a lot more of immersive audio in the coming months. As soon as we can get back to live shows, the sound quality is going to be so good. Like, if it's not, people have like some answering to do. But it is going to be good, and the standard is just going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah.
Especially for us in Coppeli-A.I. Yeah, we've been talking all morning about this. We've been going since 9:30. It's now 10:53. Almost an hour and a half of us just riffing on this really cool project. If anybody's in the chat and wondering what the hell's going on, just throw some comments in the chat. Let us know if you have any topics or questions about the topic at hand, rather. Do you want to, let's get into some personal life stuff and just like maybe chat a bit, like, because one of the things, maybe we can get away from music a little bit. During this pandemic, I've been really into doing PC gaming. I built the rig that we're streaming on right now is a brand new build that I did just for the live streams that I do for my drum playing. But I've been playing a lot of video games.
Yeah.
COVID-19 encourages that.
Of course.
Tell me about what's new with you with your life in video games and esports.
Yeah, I guess I just most recently started. I took on an assistant coach role with Hitless Esports, which has been very fun. They house 2 Valorant teams, a men's and a women's roster. Men's roster is still in our development phase. We actually can't announce our roster yet, but our women's roster, we just signed a team known as Unbind Crouch. They have been making super great waves. The best thing that I think about Valorant is Riot, the developer of the game, actually really has put a lot of effort into inclusivity in their scene and making sure that people have very, very good access to tools that they need to kind of compete in a space that's welcoming and very inviting to them. So our women's roster actually just over the weekend competed in the Valorant Game Changers Academy series against teams like Gen G and Man I Love Frogs and some very upper end tier 2 North American teams, and they actually took top 8, which was a huge accomplishment for us. Just making playoffs was sweet, and we're very happy with that. And yeah, so I'll be going forward more with that coaching role. Hopefully in the coming years here, and I really want to develop that. Hitless is still a very new organization, very much like it's got that like startup energy, So I'm a huge fan of that stuff. I love working with that. So that's intended to be a little bit more of a longer term project. I think COVID-19, thankfully, has given me a lot more of an opportunity to think about like balance in my life and figuring out like, okay, maybe I do have time for some things that like aren't music. So this is one of them, I guess.
Oh, totally. And are you going to be are you going to be presenting this to the world ever? Like, I know coaching, it's probably like a pretty like, you don't want the other teams to like know your strategies and things like that. But I think it would be a very interesting thing for people to watch.
Yeah.
And like, it's something that I'd be interested in.
No, we've got a lot of content in our pipeline, actually. We have one out so far with our tentative men's roster of just like we're calling it like Hitless Mic'd Up. It's the exact same thing you'd see from when they put like lav mics on hockey players or anything. It's just us kind of going through their comms and giving some highlights. They're a pretty they're pretty what's the best way to describe this? They're a pretty eccentric group of dudes. So it makes for some really good content, just seeing how pro teams kind of just meld together and talk to each other during a match or during a scrim. And we intend to keep putting that stuff out because we just really like showing that side of it. Lots of more I guess like formal content. We just have like a coaching announcement video that just got put out today, and it's just, or not today, sorry, a couple weeks ago, and that's just like an intro to sort of our coaching staff and a bit of our backgrounds there. Trying to make a lot of short form content on like TikTok and stuff, and just like showing highlights that way. So yeah, it's just a good way to get more involved with people that do want to see more like that. Yeah.
Totally. So where can people find this content and like to like know more about what you're talking about with Hitlist?
Yeah, our YouTube channel is just Hitlist Esports. If you search that up on YouTube, it's the first thing. Our shortened link is also just bit.ly/HitlistTube. And then all our socials are under at Hitlist Esports, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Super cool. It's great to chat with you about that.
Yeah, for sure.
I know, like I've heard little things about what you've been up to, and I can't wait to see more stuff like that. I would love, like we're recording right now from MacEwan University in Edmonton, Alberta, from our brand new TV studio, and one of the things that I'm trying to look at and push for and see if we can work on some projects together is with some sort of esports casting. And I think it would be a really, really unique thing to just have people in and chat about strategy, things like that, as well as cast some live esports tournaments. Whether it's Valorant or whatever else. And so maybe viewers just pay attention to what we're doing here, and I might end up, depending on how the summer goes, we might end up creating a new channel for esports. Everything esports, MacEwan University. We'll see if that's one of the projects we take on this semester. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Do you have your band Medical Pilot?
Yeah.
We can do a plug for Medical Pilot and talk about like maybe some of the creative processes that would be different from you composing.
Ooh,
do you like you don't in a rock band? Do you call it composing?
No, not
Usually
really.
you write songs.
Yeah. It's very much a different process. I guess the best way to describe it would be like, and that's the thing. It's so hard because everyone writes songs differently, but at least between projects that I work on like Coppelia and my personal stuff with Medical Pilot, or even like other artists that I work with on a more producer songwriter level, like it's very much, I guess, like Coppelia is like me trying to convey a pre-existing story, whereas like with songwriting in a more traditional sense with bands and with solo artists, it's like the song is the story kind of. I hope that makes at least a little bit of sense.
Oh, totally.
But,
it makes it.
yeah.
I mean, to me, I don't know about to anybody else out there, but coming from a musician perspective, but anybody, you know, for the most part, things you write the story and that's the song, right? You're telling the story through the song. But although, I mean, some music, some songs take from other stories. Same with the way film takes from other stories.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of classic. I don't want to say nursery rhyme, but like nursery stories.
Yeah.
That have got adapted into film, and they take credit for the they're like, this is an original story, but obviously it has taken, you know, you can see symbolisms that are very similar to classic art, and that's exactly what it is. You know, good art is original and great art steals is the term, I believe.
Yeah.
And you know, in a safe way. We'll see.
Yeah. I guess in a modern world, it's pretty hard to steal and get away with it without some sort of legal repercussion.
But everything's stolen, though.
Yeah. No, of course.
Let's get into copyright issues.
Yeah.
Like there's not an original chord progression anymore. Every chord progression has been thought of. You know, is it copyright to play a 2-5-1 chord progression?
Yeah.
It's not. That's the epitome of like the standard chord progression.
Yeah. You get into these lawsuit cases. I think the most recent one would be, I think like Ed Sheeran had something happen, or even let's do like the blurred lines thing. Like, I can see it. Like there's similarities there, but in my mind, they're two different songs. And like seeing kind of these court cases pop up and stuff is kind of a little bit like not worrisome, because ultimately I can just kind of take a step back and it's like this is just like this is just a like a mud throwing contest between two people, and like it's not concerning too much. But there's always gonna be a little bit of me that is like, man, I really hope this doesn't happen more, you know, because the longer we kind of stay in whatever you want to call this era of music, the longer that, or the more chance there is going to be for more things like this to happen. And I don't think that's good for any sort of art, right? I think
I mean, coming from a musician's perspective, definitely. I have a friend who's a music lawyer. His name is Kurt Dahl. I highly recommend everyone going and searching Kurt Dahl lawyer drummer on Google and finding out more about him. He works some high profile cases, and he does a few seminars on copyright law, what is okay, what is not okay. And in the legal world, everything is the fine print.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the blurred lines thing, or even other copyright cases, you could always make a case saying, oh, well, I was inspired by this person.
Yeah.
And then the lawyer could easily say, well, you took inspiration from that person. That means that person influenced your music. And that means that now your music should be giving money to them because of blah, blah, blah. And that case can always be, you know, presented. Make it very seldom probably would it be you know, awarded to the other person in that scenario. But that goes with anything, you know, that you take from other things as inspiration, and that just like, that's the way it starts.
Yeah, of course. I think there's obviously been some more egregious cases that you can definitely look at, but again, it's like it's so hard to find a line, especially when you get into things like
Danny California and Tom Petty.
Yeah, or like sampling just in general in hip hop and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's so tough to be like, where, like, and the thing is, I guarantee you, every different person you ask is going to have a different opinion about this. It's just one of those things that's like, it's gonna be debated forever. I've kind of accepted at this point, and I'm just like, this is a part of my life now.
And you know what? It's becoming more easy to get your songs cleared.
Yeah.
For not sync licenses, but sample licensing. Yeah. So if you're a small creator right now and you're sampling a lot of people's stuff, you know it's wrong, and you know you shouldn't be doing it, but just know that it's not that hard to actually get permission to use those samples. You know, you could pay up to about $100 per sample, and if you want to really put your music commercially out there, if you're just doing it for fun and you just want to post stuff and it's filling a creative thing for you, they can still come after you. Like, even if you don't charge money for it, they can still sue you for you know, improper representation of their music. So there's a lot, actually a few companies that I was looking into that do sync licensing and sample licensing and sample clearance. They're really easy to work with. They'll work with you, and they'll get your samples cleared really quickly. So if you're looking to do it commercially, I highly recommend searching out one of these sample clearance companies. Essentially just like lawyers mixed with accountants. And Well, this has been a great conversation. We've now been streaming for just over an hour and a half, or 2 hours, 9, 10, 11, hour and a half-ish. Usually I like to stream for 2 hours, and, you know, just to get some good content in there. But I think we've covered a lot of the topics. I've had a really great time here. I want to send out a huge thank you to Gerard doing all the TV studio operations in the control room. Couldn't have done this without him, as well as Jason Malenko here at the McEwen TV studio for facilitating all of this. This has been a really awesome experience, and I'm hoping we can do a lot more of this. If anyone in the chat would like to see more of this, please send me a whisper or join our Discord, !Discord, if you would like to find out where to join that. And we can talk about doing more just chatting streams here in the studio. We can talk video games, we can talk music, and maybe we do a few music performances as well. Maybe some acoustic things, who knows? Not me. I won't be playing the acoustic, but I'll bring in some musical guests. How's that? Let's do a talk show. Let's just make this a talk show. This is between two ferns. I need 2 ferns. Gerard, get me 2 ferns. All right. Thank you so much for everybody for watching. We're gonna end the broadcast there. Let me know what you think, and I'll try and post. I might cut this together. This is gonna be part of a documentary that I'm filming for Coppeli-A.I, and it's part of the end goal of a research creation project that is Coppeli-A.I. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about it. I don't even know how do I end. There we go. All right. Thank you so much for watching. This is Phil Rodda, composer, Twitch streamer, coach, like esports coach. Like his CV resume is just like so long. Get in touch with him. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me.